I never thought I would witness someone getting arrested for harassing Santa Claus, but that is exactly what happened last December at Riverside Mall. And honestly, after everything this woman put that poor man through, I cannot say I felt bad about it. Let me back up and explain how this whole situation unfolded, because it is truly one of the most bizarre and satisfying things I have ever seen happen during the holiday season. My name is Morgan, and I own a small but successful commercial photography business. Every year, I do contract work for several shopping centers in the area, taking professional photos for their holiday displays, promotional materials, and special events. It is good money, and I have built excellent relationships with the mall management companies over the years. One of my regular clients is Riverside Mall, a mid-sized shopping center that goes all out for Christmas with elaborate decorations, a massive tree in the center court, and of course, a Santa's village complete with elves, fake snow, and a professional Santa Claus. This particular December, I was there almost daily, documenting the holiday setup and taking candid shots of families enjoying the festivities. That is how I got a front row seat to what I now call the Karen vs. Santa incident. Before I go any further, if you are enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to Karen Eat World. Trust me, you are going to want to follow along because this gets absolutely wild. The mall's Santa that year was a man named Officer Rick Patterson, though obviously, he was not going by that name while working as Santa. Rick was a police officer with our local department who had been playing Santa at various venues for nearly 15 years. He had the real deal look too, an authentic white beard that he grew out specifically for the season, genuine rosy cheeks, kind eyes, and a warm laugh that made even cynical teenagers smile. He was not just some guy in a costume. He took the role seriously because he understood how much it meant to kids. During his off hours from the police department, he volunteered his time at children's hospitals, community centers, and yes, the mall. Rick was scheduled to work the Santa gig every evening from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m., and weekend days from noon until 8 p.m. It was a demanding schedule on top of his regular police shifts, but he loved it. I had chatted with him a few times while taking photos, and he told me that being Santa was his way of giving back to the community in a different way than his day job allowed. He said there was something special about making kids smile and helping families create happy memories. For the first 2 weeks of his stint as mall Santa, everything went smoothly. Families lined up, kids sat on his lap, parents took photos, and everyone left happy. The mall was making good money from the photo packages, and the whole Santa's village was the highlight of their holiday season. Then Karen showed up. I first noticed her on a busy Saturday afternoon, about 10 days before Christmas. The line for Santa was long, maybe 40 or 50 families waiting their turn. I was photographing the scene from various angles, capturing the excitement on children's faces and the beautiful decorations. That is when I saw her, a woman in her mid-40s with an aggressive blonde bob haircut, designer athleisure wear that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and an expression that looked like she had been sucking on lemons for the past hour. She was not in line. She was standing off to the side, arms crossed, just watching Santa with this look of intense scrutiny. At first, I thought maybe she was a nervous parent checking things out before getting in line with her kid, but there was no child with her. She was alone, and she was staring at Rick like he had personally offended her by existing. After about 10 minutes of this odd behavior, she marched right past the entire line of waiting families, ignored the elf attendant who tried to stop her, and walked straight up to Santa's chair while a little girl was literally sitting on his lap telling him what she wanted for Christmas. "Excuse me. Excuse me. I need to speak with you immediately," Karen announced loudly, completely disrupting the child's moment. Rick, being the professional he was, gently finished listening to the little girl's wish, gave her a candy cane, and helped her down before addressing Karen. "Yes ma'am, can I help you? If you would like a photo with Santa, the line starts back there." "I am not here for a photo," Karen snapped. "I am here to file a complaint. Your beard is fake. I can tell from here. You are deceiving all these children and their parents, and I will not stand for this fraud." The families in line started murmuring. The little girl who had just been on Rick's lap looked confused and upset. Rick remained calm, his voice still jolly and warm. "I assure you, ma'am, my beard is quite real. I have been growing it since September." He tugged on it gently to demonstrate. "Now, if you would please step aside, there are many children waiting." "Do not tell me what to do." Karen's voice got louder. "I know a fake beard when I see one. I am reporting this to mall management. This is false advertising. These parents are paying money for photos with what they think is a real Santa, and you are here lying to everyone." One of the elf attendants, a sweet college student named Melissa, tried to intervene. "Ma'am, I can assure you that Santa's beard is real. But if you have a complaint, I can get you the information for mall management so you do not have to disrupt the children's experience." Karen whipped around to face Melissa. "Are you in on this scam too? How much are they paying you to lie? I want to speak to your manager right now." At this point, mall security arrived. 2 guards, both of whom I knew from my regular work there, approached Karen and politely asked her to step away from the Santa area. After several minutes of argument, they managed to escort her away, though she was shouting the entire time about lawsuits, fraud, and how she was going to shut down the whole operation. I figured that was the end of it. Surely mall security would ban her or at least warn her not to come back. But I was wrong. So very wrong. Karen returned the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. Each time, she had a new complaint about Santa. His beard was fake. His suit was not authentic enough. He was not saying ho 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 enough times. He was saying ho 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 too many times. He let children sit on his lap too long. He did not spend enough time with each child. His boots were not shiny enough. The fake snow around Santa's village was a slipping hazard. The candy canes he gave out were a choking hazard. The lights were too bright. The lights were not bright enough. The music was too loud. The decorations were culturally insensitive. Every single day, multiple times per day, Karen would show up and cause a scene. She would try to interrupt children's visits with Santa. She would berate the elf attendants. She would film everything on her phone while shouting about violations and regulations and her rights as a customer. Mall security would escort her away, but she would return within hours. The mall management tried everything. They issued her a verbal warning. They issued a written trespass warning. They threatened to press charges if she returned. But Karen always had some excuse about how she was there to shop at one of the stores, and they could not prove she was specifically there to harass Santa. The mall was open to the public, and as long as she claimed to be a customer, there was not much they could legally do unless she actually committed a crime they could prove. Rick handled all of this with remarkable patience. He never lost his temper, never broke character, and always made sure the children's experiences were not ruined despite Karen's disruptions. But I could see it was wearing on him. More importantly, it was upsetting the families and children who came to see Santa. I had several conversations with mall management during this time. As their contracted photographer, I had a professional relationship with them, and they confided in me about how frustrated they were. They were losing money because families were avoiding Santa's village during peak Karen hours. The elf attendants were stressed. Security was stretched thin dealing with her constant disruptions. They had consulted with their legal team, but without Karen committing a clear criminal act on camera, their options were limited. That is when I decided to do something that turned out to be the catalyst for everything that followed. Using my connections with mall management, I offered to install additional high-quality cameras around Santa's village, completely free of charge. I told them it was for better promotional photos and video content, which was partially true. But really, I wanted clear documentation of everything Karen was doing. High definition, multiple angles, crystal clear audio. If she was going to continue this harassment, we were going to have irrefutable evidence. Mall management agreed immediately. Within 2 days, I had set up a professional camera system that would make a film studio jealous. Every inch of Santa's village was covered. Every word could be heard clearly. And I made sure Rick knew about it too. Just keep being the professional you are. I told him. If she crosses a line, we will have everything documented. Rick thanked me, though he still seemed hesitant to cause trouble. I just want to make it through the season without any kids being upset, he said. That is when I learned more about his background. Rick was not just any police officer. He was a decorated veteran of the force with over 20 years of experience. He had commendations for bravery, community service awards, and was widely respected in the department. He was exactly the kind of person you would want as both a cop and a Santa Claus. Karen's harassment escalated. On December 20th, with only a few shopping days left before Christmas, she showed up during the busiest time of day. The line for Santa wrapped around the entire center court. Families had been waiting for over an hour. Children were getting tired and cranky. Parents were stressed but trying to maintain holiday spirit. Karen did not care. She marched past security, shoved through the line of waiting families, and got right in Rick's face while a 4-year-old boy was on his lap. I have had enough of this charade, she screamed. You are a liar and a fraud, and I am going to make sure everyone knows it. She reached out and grabbed Rick's beard, yanking on it hard enough to jerk his head forward. See? Fake. I knew it. The beard did not come off because, as Rick had been telling her all along, it was real. But the assault was clear. She had physically attacked him. The 4-year-old on his lap started crying. Parents in line gasped. Security rushed forward. Rick, even in that moment, maintained his composure. He gently set the crying child down, made sure the boy got to his parents safely, and then stood up to his full height. He was a big guy, easily 6'3", and even in the Santa suit, his presence was commanding. Ma'am, he said, his voice no longer jolly but firm and authoritative. You just committed assault. You need to leave immediately. Assault? You are going to talk to me about assault? You are the one running a fraudulent operation. I am calling 911 right now. I am having you arrested. Go ahead. Rick said calmly. Please do call 911. Karen pulled out her phone and actually did it. She called 911 right there in the middle of Santa's village, screaming into the phone about how she was being threatened by a fake Santa Claus, how there was fraud happening at Riverside Mall, and how she needed police assistance immediately. The 911 dispatcher, clearly confused but taking the call seriously, said officers were on their way. Karen stood there triumphantly, smirking at Rick like she had won some great victory. The crowd of families had backed away, creating a circle around the scene. Security was on their radios coordinating. I had my cameras capturing every single second. What happened next was perhaps the most beautiful moment of instant karma I have ever witnessed in my entire life. 2 police cars arrived within minutes. 4 officers entered the mall and made their way to Santa's village. Karen immediately rushed toward them, phone still recording, ready to file her complaint against the fraudulent Santa. But then she stopped dead in her tracks. Because one of the responding officers walked right up to Rick and said, "Hey Rick, we got a call about a disturbance." What's going on? I watched Karen's face cycle through confusion, then realization, then absolute horror. Rick reached up and pulled off his Santa hat, revealing his regular haircut underneath. Hey Johnson. Yeah, we have got a situation here. This woman has been harassing me for over a week, and she just committed assault on camera. He gestured to my camera setup. We have got multiple angles of everything. Wait. Karen's voice was barely a whisper. You are a cop? Officer Rick Patterson, 23 years on the force. Rick replied. And you just assaulted a police officer, on camera, in front of about 200 witnesses, after repeatedly being told to leave me alone. One of the other officers, a young guy who looked like he was trying not to smile, said, We also have the 911 call recording where you made a false report. That is a separate charge. Karen's face went from red to white to red again. This is entrapment. You should have identified yourself. This is not fair. You cannot arrest me. Ma'am, I am working a second job as a mall Santa. I do not have to identify myself as an officer while I am off duty and not acting in an official capacity. You assaulted me as a civilian, which is still a crime. Then you filed a false police report. Those are both arrestable offenses. The mall had erupted in applause. Parents were actually clapping. Children were confused but picking up on the positive energy. The elf attendants were grinning. Mall security looked relieved. You have the right to remain silent. Rick began, and honestly, the sight of Santa Claus reading someone their Miranda rights is something I will never forget. Karen was placed in handcuffs, still in complete shock, still trying to argue, still not understanding that she had just destroyed herself. As they walked her out of the mall, past all the holiday shoppers and families, past the giant Christmas tree and the decorations, she kept turning back to look at Rick with this expression of utter disbelief. She had spent weeks harassing someone she thought was powerless, someone she thought she could bully without consequences. She had escalated, so sure of her own righteousness, so certain that she had the power. And in one moment, she discovered that the man she had been tormenting was not only able to defend himself but had the authority and evidence to hold her accountable. The look on her face when she realized that Santa Claus was a cop, that every moment of her harassment had been documented, that her own escalation had led directly to her arrest, it was the most perfect instant karma I have ever seen. The last thing I saw before she was taken out of sight was her mouth hanging open, eyes wide with shock, as she fully understood that she had not just harassed some mall employee who would take it quietly. She had systematically harassed and then assaulted a decorated police officer who had been nothing but professional and patient with her, and now she was facing real criminal charges because of her own choices. If you love this story of instant karma, please smash that like button and subscribe to Karen Eat World for more stories of entitled people getting exactly what they deserve. Drop a comment below telling me your worst mall Santa experience. I read every single one. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes Santa Claus really is watching, and he might just have a badge.